Recursive bilingualism. What is recursive bilingualism? Now, this model of bilingualism has to do with the revitalization of a language which has been not used for some time, or which has been used for only restricted or limited purposes for some time. So, this is about revival of old languages, and because it is a revival of an old language that had been used in the past, this does not mean starting out from scratch. So, when a community that was speaking that language quite some time ago and somehow decides to revive that language for some other function, then that type of model is called recursive bilingualism, but it is not a start from not a beginning from the scratch, because some aspects of the language are or have already been in use. However, they have not been used or accessed systematically, and you suddenly decide that we now need to sort of revive that language and use it for specific purposes or whatever. I mean, making that your national language or using it for formal purposes, it is the choice that the community makes. Please remember that recursive bilingualism does not happen all together. It happens in bits and pieces and gradually. However, it is possible that there might be a specific standardization process that might accompany it in certain aspects or in certain contexts. Otherwise, it only means that gradually you start using those words, those things, linguistic items that have not been used before. An important example of recursive bilingualism or language revitalization is the use of Hebrew. So you have this work on Hebrew language, which was only used for religious purposes, and it was revived to be used in everyday life. And whenever we engage with this recursive bilingualism, we need to understand that language is revived by ascribing certain functions to it. So, for instance, coming back to Hebrew, where it was restricted to religious purposes, he expanded the functions that Hebrew could perform, and then you somehow expanded the use of language, and it became gradually revitalized. Remember that when we are talking about recursive bilingualism and language revitalization, it can happen at state level, in which you set up certain academies in which the new types of new types of functions that you want to ascribe to the language, they are looked at closely in a systematic way, and then new vocabulary is formed, and you somehow develop that language. On the other hand, it might also happen only at the community level, where the community itself starts using the items or aspects of language that they had been using in the past, but which somehow was abandoned somewhere down the lane. So, in recursive bilingualism, what we are saying is that change in language itself might be possible. It is possible because, especially when you are doing this revitalization process, let me give you an example of Punjabi. You suddenly decide we want to use Punjabi or Sindhi or Pashto for scientific purposes. Then what do? You need to have terms that explain the new technology or the new science in a different language, in a different way. So you will add to the linguistic repertoire. There are so many things. For instance, look at this technology, this I'm sure so many of you are using Facebook. So there is this concept of like. Now, what does like mean in English? Like means you like something, you appreciate something. And what do you do on your Facebook when even you hear about the death of someone and somebody very sick and they say, please like it, and you like it. So even horrible things are liked. So this technology has changed the meaning of like from just appreciating something and really, how we used to use like, but to the concept of acknowledging that it is happening and showing some sort of affiliation or identification with it.